Welcome to a new video. Let's take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. The first story is called, "Is this extenuating enough for you?" I'm the warranty head for a retailer dealing with large machinery. The vendor sells to us, we sell to the customer, then I deal with any warranty claims on behalf of the customer. We also sell attachments for the large machinery, like grapples and hammers, which have their own warranty terms. We purchased a set of grapples in 2017 and kept them in stock until finally installing them onto a machine that we sold last month. Immediately they started having issues. No problem, we went out and replaced a $1,700 part that had failed. I submitted the claim to the grapple company. Unfortunately, the grapple company just got bought out by a different vendor, who is playing hardball, and my claim is denied. Technically, the grapple company only warranties their parts for 1 year from the ship date, not the install date. We keep a large stock count of their grapples as part of an unwritten agreement between our companies, as the former owner was a personal friend of my company's owner. Maintaining our own stock makes inventory easier for both of us, rather than having to place a rush order for each machine we sell. We also make up a large portion of their yearly sales. I resubmit the claim, requesting goodwill compensation, and was denied again. I resubmitted a third time detailing the understanding we had with the previous owners. The new warranty guy on their side sent me the response, "Our company understands the situation, but we aren't able to help. Our warranty guidelines are clear that no warranty will be considered if the terms have expired outside of extenuating circumstances. And we require all retailers to follow those terms to the letter. If there are extenuating circumstances to this claim, please advise." Fine. $1,700 is not a truly significant amount of money, but this lack of warranty issue does promise to become much bigger as time passes and could make it non-profitable to carry their brand. I make a recommendation to the head of sales, and he gives me authorization to throw my weight around. I email them back, "We appreciate you must follow warranty guidelines as written. We consider the extenuating circumstances to be the continued relationship between our two companies. If you disagree, we must also begin following our guidelines to the letter. Per our terms from this document, we will be returning all items approaching the year mark for full credit. We will not be continuing to keep advanced stock. As your company has had significant issues in the past handling just-in-time inventory requests, we will also be looking elsewhere for a supplier. Please advise your staff to expect the first return shipment by the end of the week. Thank you for your time." Surprise, surprise, the vendor's new president came rushing down to visit us personally and unruffle feathers. He, my head of sales, and I sat down and hashed out a written agreement for the new warranty terms to reflect our stocking understanding and continuing good relationship. I got my measly $1,700 credit and, more importantly, what amounts to a carte blanche on all future claims. Their warranty adjuster has been instructed to handle us with kid gloves. The next story is called, "But My Son Knows Better Than You." I had this wonderful encounter with this lady today. She needed a form signed so she could receive a payout from an investment. That's cool, I work in customer service for a bank. So I am happy to help and see what I can do for her. She presents me with said form and says I have to sign to say I've witnessed her signature. Okay, no problem, you are a customer with the bank and have been for years. So let's read the form and then I'm happy to sign. I noticed that the form asked for a signature from a bank official only if being signed outside the country. If being signed in the country, it can only be witnessed by anyone registered to vote as long as they provide their address. I try pointing this out to her. And that's when all hell breaks loose. The lady said, "You will sign this for me. I have wasted my whole day making the trip here and paying for parking. It says bank official, so sign it." I'm afraid I can't as a bank official because that's not what it needs. That is what it needs. I have a son who is an accountant and he's told me to bring it here and have you sign it. Are you telling me I wasted my morning or that my son is wrong? Not at all. If you know any of us personally, we can sign it for you because we need to give out personal information to witness it. Why would I know any of you? I mean as a friend. Why would I be friends with someone who works in a bank? I have nothing nice to say to this, so I say nothing at all, which didn't help the situation. My son is an accountant and he has told me what to do. I need you to do this for me. If you won't, then I'll make a complaint. I can't do it as a bank official, madam. The lady started to interrupt me. But my son is an accountant and he knows these things and you have to sign it for me. I don't know any of you, but I have been coming here for 30 years and demand you do this for me. Okay, if I can have the form back, I'll talk to my colleagues and see if there's anything. No, I only want you to sign it for me. I want your name and the manager's so I can complain about how you're refusing to help me. I need this money. Sign the form. That would involve me giving you my personal information, which I'm not allowed. Then what good are you? And with that, she storms out of the branch after grabbing the paper from my hand. I shake it off and carry on with my day. Turns out she called the branch about 10 minutes after she left, upset with how unhelpful I had been. My higher-up spoke to her and invited her back in to sit with him personally to see what could be done. The lady comes back, looks down her nose at me as she walks past into an office with my colleague. Last I saw of her, thank heavens. Now here's the malicious compliance. Since she hadn't been willing to listen to me explain the form, I had meticulously briefed my colleague on the form when he told me she was coming back. I made sure he knew that to complete it properly, he would have to give out his personal information and not sign it as a bank official. I really hoped that she would listen to him and understand what she had to do next. Turns out she does not. All that mattered to her was a signature that her son, the accountant, had told her she needed. My colleague tried to explain and gave her the option of going away and doing it correctly, but she was having none of it and insisted he does it. So he did. And with it invalidated the form she is trying to use to get her money. It'll set the whole process back about a month or more. They will get the form, see it's done incorrectly and have to get new forms out to her in the post. Not a massive setback, but if you will insist on us doing it the wrong way, it's your problem. The third story is called, How to Defeat a Homeowner Association. When I was in high school back in the late 90s, one of my teachers shared a story with the class in order to explain why we would have a substitute teacher in the next week. My teacher was in his late 30s, married for only a couple of years. And over the summer he and his wife bought their first house together. As is typical, the house was in an area that had a homeowner association. While he wasn't thrilled at the idea of meddling with that, it is a necessary and unavoidable evil. He went through their regulations with a fine-tooth comb and decided that while there was some stuff he wasn't a fan of, overall he could live with it, so they signed the papers and bought the house. About a week after they move in, they get a non-compliance letter, stating that the tree in their front yard was not an approved species and must be removed. The problem is the tree was native to that spot, was estimated at 80 to 100 years old and was a pecan. I mention the type for two reasons. First, a pecan produces nuts and that is why they said it can't be in the front yard. After all, a lawnmower flings a rogue pecan through a neighbor's window and there will be an issue. The second issue is that this was in the Dallas, Texas area. The pecan is the state tree of Texas and as such gets a little legal protection. Basically, to cut one down, you need to have a permit. To get that permit, you have to show the tree is diseased or a hazard. Just being in the way is not sufficient. My teacher is upset as the tree is large, provides lots of shade, and he likes eating pecans. He writes back to the association, who turn a deaf ear and point to the regulations and refer him to their legal team for any further questions. He then contacts the county and state, who both come back with he can't remove the tree without a permit or he will face a large fine or jail time. He copies that letter and sends it along with his own letter in a certified envelope to the association's lawyers. The lawyers come back that the regulations are binding and that he is not allowed to have fruit or nut producing trees in his front yard, but ornamental trees of flowers and flower pots are fine. If it isn't removed in 30 days, they will begin fining him. At this point, he gets his own lawyer and turns it over to him. A couple of months go by and we are to the part of this story where he is explaining why there will be a substitute. He will be going to court to have a judge weigh in on the matter. The next week comes and after the court hearing, he comes in and says that basically, he lost as the judge ruled that the regulations did apply and the tree had to go. However, since it was a native tree at the time of development, the association would be responsible for all costs of removal, not him as the homeowner. Now, most people probably would have let it go at this point. Sure, you lost the tree, but it isn't costing you anything. But not my teacher. The man decided it was time to protest the overreaching homeowner association and their absurdity. So, he got to reading. After going through the regulations thoroughly, he took a trip to Home Depot and bought some hose, fittings, and a nicer toilet. He set the toilet up in the middle of the yard, right where the tree had been, and ran the hose and fittings to his outside faucet so that it was hooked up for water in. He then dumped some potting soil in the bowl and planted some decorative flowers. It took a few weeks, but a non-compliance letter came in stating he had house waste is in front yard and it must be removed within 72 hours or he would be fined. He wrote back there was no house waste. They responded again and he stated they needed to come show him where this supposed waste was. The next day, a guy from the association comes out and points right at the toilet and says it cannot be there, it is an eyesore. My teacher responded, sorry you feel that way about my self-watering flower pot, but I see nowhere in the regulations that state what style of flower pot is or is not allowed. The guy representing the associations gets verbally heated and threatens to call the police, to which my teacher agrees. Having his bluff called, the guy leaves. A week or so goes by and the class 1 is pestering our teacher every day for new stories on this. He said he got a letter from their lawyers which he sent straight to his lawyer. His lawyer agreed with him that the regulations in no way, shape, or form put any qualifiers or limitations on flower pots, and as the flowers are clearly visible, so it doesn't constitute as debris or trash in the yard. A few back and forth and things happen between the lawyers, and then the association moves for a trial, which gets the same judge as before. The judge reviewed the case and dismissed it as frivolous. He did put in his remarks or decision something along the lines of, while the defendant's choice of a flower pot is eye-raising and isn't traditional, there is nothing illegal about his use of a commode as art in his yard. The plaintiff has failed to demonstrate any sound reason this would violate existing rules and bylaws of their association. The last story is called, Let Me Prove a Point About the New Dress Code. I have worked in a lot of different industries, but this happened while I worked in a casino chain in the United Kingdom. At 19, I was a bartender and shifts would usually be 12 hours at a time. While I worked there, the dress code was smart black, which men and women had to wear because it was comfortable. To get more tips, even though I was classified as a bartender, the company forced the women to work on the casino floor, making us walk in circles around the gambling tables, and made the men stay behind the bar. The women were not allowed to stand still, so even on a quiet day, we still had to walk in circles. This was made easier with our uniforms being comfortable. Although it was frustrating to walk around for hours on end, the pay was good, so we complied. Then the company held a meeting and told us how they decided to change the uniforms. Unsurprisingly, the men's uniforms didn't change at all. But the women were told to wear tight grey dresses you could barely move in and high heels by the next shift. It was clearly to look more appealing and get more tips. Of course, my female co-workers and I were angry about this and told the managers that we will not only have restricted movement but will also be in pain by the end of the night if we have to walk around for hours in high heels on the hard floor. Management did not care and told us to stop complaining. After this, we all gathered in the changing rooms and talked about how there is no way we are wearing this new uniform and shouldn't wear it in protest. That's when I had an idea. I suggested that my co-workers do what they have planned and I will wear a new uniform because we needed to prove our point. After a long discussion and hesitation, they agreed and let me do it. The next shift, I walked in the building in the new uniform and it was uncomfortable. The dress made it difficult to turn my body around and bending over was near impossible. It was so tight that when I did kneel down, I was scared it would rip. Management was really happy to see that I complied, even saying to my co-workers how they should learn from me. I had to keep it cool while they said that as I was already started to get sore from the heels. It was a busy night and I was running around like a headless chicken. The dress made it difficult to keep up the pace as I struggled to breathe properly. I think the dress was not designed for this kind of movement. And the pain from my shoes increased to the point that at times I had to attempt to crouch for a second in the back to give my feet a rest. My co-workers started begging me to stop and just get flat shoes on for my own sake. But I declined, stating how I needed to prove our point, so I pushed on through the pain till the end of the shift. Management came in when we all finished to see how everyone was and asking me how I found the shift. I smiled and said it was great with one small problem. I removed my shoes for the first time in 12 hours and stood in front of my managers mildly shaking. Their faces went from all smiles to shock when they looked at my feet to see my blood running on the floor from the open wounds on my heels. The injuries covered the entirety of my heels with dried blood on the back of my shoes. They started telling me I should not have done that and should have worn flat shoes, but I reminded them, but it is part of the new dress code. I had to wear high heels as you told me. As the injuries were exposed, I started to feel the pain intensify and had to hold back tears, but my shaking got worse. They made me sit down and got the first aid kit for my feet as I started to unzip the back of my dress, saying how hard it is to breathe. The dresses were still compulsory, but the dresses were made looser and we never had to wear high heels on shift again. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content. Let me know what you think about the stories in the comment section below. Have a great day. Bye bye.